A mother of 6, bravely saves all her children from a blazing fire that caught their house. Emily had given birth to 6 children and was living alone with them as her husband was out. One day she was sleeping peacefully when suddenly she heard some weird noises coming from downstairs. The cautious mother ran to the bottom to see what was happening. A chill ran down her spine when she saw the scene. A fire had enveloped the house, and what was more frightening was that her 2 sons were cowering in the playroom away from the fire. Emily's motherly instinct was on high alert and she quickly jumped into action to protect her children. Wearing only panties, the mother ran to her 2 sons and ushered them out the front door and locked it, since she knew that they would come inside. Suddenly, the fire got oxygen and there was a huge explosion and her whole back was caught on fire. But the 31-year-old woman didn't care about that and went to save her other 4 children who were upstairs. She shouted and instructed them to get out of the house through the balcony before it's too late. The whole staircase was on fire, but the brave mother ran through the fire to protect her babies. Even though with each step her feet burned, the motherly love was just too strong for Emily to stop walking on those stairs. When she reached upstairs, the mother saw that her 9-year-old daughter Nancy had already jumped out of the balcony and had run towards the neighbor to ask for help. Meanwhile, her eldest son Willie, who was 11 years old, was trying to lower the ladder so that those who remained could climb out. When Emily opened the room door, the children saw their mother and were astonished. They saw Emily bleeding and burning. As she was only in her underwear, they could see the skin of their mother peeling away. She realized that her youngest child, Molly, who was just 1 year old, was not in that room. Her sons tried to stop Emily from entering the fire inferno again, but she had made up her mind and managed to pull herself along the floor into the bedroom. Fearing that baby Molly would no longer be alive, Emily fought the flames and made it to her room. Entering the room, Emily was met with a cloud of thick smoke and it was almost impossible to see anything. But the mother saw Molly crying and jumping in her crib out of fear. She then used all of her strength left in her burning body and carried her child in her arms. Emily took Molly to the room where Willie had left the ladder for his mom to come out of the house. It was extremely painful for her to get down as her feet were sticking to the ladder, peeling away the skin and leaving it open to bleed. When she reached the last step, and all her children were out safely, the body gave up and Emily fell to the ground. On that last step, the mother felt all the pain had struck her at once, and when she knew that all her children were all right, Emily thought she could pass away peacefully. But before the ambulance arrived and the mother was put to sleep, she promised her eldest son Willie, who was the last child to leave her side, to return home soon. Emily kept her promise and miraculously she survived. Looks like the heavens were on her side. Thankfully all 6 children made out of the house without any injury while their mother was recovering. Because it is very uncommon for people to survive even 90% of burns, and Emily's body was burned to 93%. When she woke up, her first words were, "Are the children alive?" The staff told them that all 6 were safe and sound. But the mother couldn't believe them, since the image of Molly in the crib and the children's fear had etched themselves in the memory. The 6 children had to wait for a month and a half before they could visit their mother in the hospital. Some of the children were frightened of their mother, who was unrecognizable after so much of her body was burned. Emily said it was fantastic, but at the same time tough. Youngest Molly did not recognize me. That was probably the hardest part. She did not want to come to me, which I can understand with all appliances and hoses. Then I looked completely different. Gradually things became better and Emily was recovering well and was finally discharged from the hospital. During her recovery, their house was being rebuilt, and the Swedish supermom and her 6 children moved into the same house. In addition to the rehab training she needs to do every day, she is also back on horseback and finds fun excursions and mischief with the children. For her courageous act, Emily was named Lifeguard of the Year 2020 at the Swedish Heroes Gala. During the feature at the Swedish Heroes Gala, her son William spoke about the time after the fire. "You sometimes thought that you might never see your mother again. But now we get to see her almost every day, and then you will be happy." This story is inspiring beyond measure. The things we are able to do for our children are miraculous.